Welcome back. Just half past the top of the hour. High noon Eastern here in New York. Coming to you live every day, Monday to Friday. High atop the financial capital world, right across the street from the New York Stock Exchange. And the Dow still holding that 26.5 level. Some support here through the weekend could be big for next week. And cryptocurrency-wise, Bitcoin is all the rage right now, along with the ABBC coin, of course. But Bitcoin holding that 9,000 level, and 10,000 could be in its near future. In your near future, Richard Roth, David Storobin come back again to mix it up. And when you got legal eagles like this in the studio, you got to hit them with serious topics. And this Supreme Court decided they weren't going to weigh in on the double jeopardy cases that states can bring charges against you after you've been prosecuted by the feds. Double jeopardy was in the Constitution for you, me, and them. I want you guys to talk about the threat of abuse of power from having double jeopardy laws not exist.
Well, it's not that they don't exist, but what the Constitution says that you shall not be prosecuted two times for the same offense. That's what it says.
That's right.
The problem
in
is
black and white, in the Constitution.
I think
there's
we may agree on this
no
also.
Fundamentalist or this or theorist. This is black and white.
And 160 years ago, the Supreme Court said that there are two sovereigns: the federal government's a sovereign, and the state government's a sovereign. So if you do this, if you engage in a crime, and the federal government believes it violates a federal statute, and the state government believes it violates a state statute, just like Paul Manafort, you can be prosecuted twice for the same offense. And this Constitution says it shouldn't happen. The Supreme Court, if you will, passed on it and said we're not going to change it, and we will allow it to happen because there are two sovereigns, which, quite frankly, is not fair to that defendant.
David, this never happened before, and now it's going to start happening all the time.
Well, it did happen before, but it's going to happen every time now because let's say you get acquitted of any random crime, drug dealing or murder or any other crime. Now you have the prosecutors at whatever level knowing exactly what your argument will be. You are now playing poker with your cards open. I mean, literally, imagine you have a hand, you played your hand, you won your hand, and all of a sudden they come in and go, well, now we're going to redo this, and you're stuck with your queen high.
And the problem, I think, emanates from the fact that
I like that. That's the way people need to hear things. Like you can't. You already showed your defense.
Right.
You showed your defense.
You may have testified. All the evidence. You may have even testified.
Now the new prosecutors get to read through all that and say, oh, here's where they screwed up. They couldn't get this piece of evidence admitted. So they get to go and fix it and go after you again. And this was goes back to the Roman times where democracies do not want absolute power. So governments can't continually throw people in jail who they don't like. And keep charging them until they find it.
And one of the other reasons is that in bigger crimes, you're sitting in jail for a year, for 2 years, maybe you cannot make bail. You win your case, you get out, they put you right back in handcuffs and you're right back in jail for another couple of years. So now you beat the second case. Now you've been in jail for 3 or 4 years. And yeah, you won your case, but hey, you spent 4 years in prison. You've been in prison from 25 to 29. How's that?
And the problem is that back during the Constitution era, there were not a lot of federal statutes. Now there are so many federal statutes. There are just every day there's another federal statute. So now if you've committed a state crime, there's generally a federal crime to go along with. That wasn't the case back during the Constitution. It was really state law that controlled. So now we have all kinds of federal crimes, from RICO to securities fraud to wire fraud to mail fraud, on and on and on. So if you do something that's illegal and you get nailed by the state, there's generally if you will, a concomitant, a similar statute in the federal government, which shouldn't be the case. Let the states do that. And that's what's really leading to this problem that you have. Paul Manafort's a perfect example.
So you think the state should be able to re-prosecute people?
I think that the federal government should have less legislation to allow the states to. I don't think they should re-prosecute. We're on the same page. I think that the Constitution is very clear. It says that you can only be tried once for the offense. And because the federal government has adopted so much legislation on the same offense,
what do you think, Dave?
I think that should be the case. If you've already been prosecuted at one level, that's it. If there's a choice of which one is to prosecute you, I would assume that the supremacy clause should dominate there, where the federal government gets the first crack. That said, you know how they say the most dangerous place is between a camera and the politician? That's what's happening because you have Congress people passing laws saying, we don't have a law about this, that, or the other. You don't have that law, but the state has that law, the county has that law, the city has that law. So we don't need the government to have a law on every little thing. Just because the government is not prosecuting something doesn't mean that the person doesn't go to jail for rape.
So
State puts them in jail for rape.
If you think we're not on top of stuff here at Liquid Lunch because you see a drink or something, think again, okay? Because just the other day we had on Mike Chase, the author of How to Become a Federal Criminal. Mike's an attorney, and he outlines the thousands and thousands of ridiculous laws that are on the books that can make you a federal criminal.
It's crazy.
Okay, and the one thing that he hadn't noted in here is get tried in state court, and then the feds also bring the case against you. Right? We got to maybe get him to update.
I'll give you
Mike Chase on there, Frankie.
I'll give you another example. You could get tried and lose, and be tried again and lose. So we talked just now about if you win and then you lose, you win and lose. You could be tried. Paul Manafort's a perfect example. There's rumors that he's going to submit a pardon application to Trump, and Trump may pardon him. He lost. He's going to be tried in this New York State. He's been indicted in New York State. So even if he's tried and convicted, he can be retried and convicted. It's crazy.
Same. We got 2 minutes. I want to get both your points of view on this. Same-sex bake a cake court ruling's been going back and forth. State court, federal court, blah blah blah. Supreme Court ruling. I followed it pretty closely. What in God's name was the final ruling? Who won? That's what I need to know.
The bakers won, but the whole point of it was to force someone to do what they don't want to do. Because why would you want to give business to somebody who doesn't want to do business with you? Like, we're Jewish, okay? We wouldn't go to an anti-Semite baker. If you don't want to bake for a Jew, okay, so we'll go to a guy who wants our money. Money is green, so we'll go to someone else, right?
It's well said. That's all they did. That's all they did. They just said, I don't want to bake for you. And I think we're on the same page on this one, too. If I don't want to bake for you, I shouldn't have to. The problem is, it started with the employment laws. You can't discriminate against age, sex, nationality, ethnicity, etc. What's happened is it's expanded. Now you can't have a relationship with a baker if they're discriminated on, if you will, one of those statutorily protected rights. So what's happened again? Same problem. Federal statutes get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're right. If I don't want to bake for you, I'm not baking for you.
I'm never baking for you.
I'm never baking. I'll have some tequila though.
Yeah, how about a tequila? Let's toast to that. Great segment. This is how we mix it up. And the purple people, whether they're on the right, the left, the center, they agree, they talk, they toast at the end, shake hands, leave friends. Guys, you're amazing. This show today is baking a cake in the process, and it's all about to get much better. We're going to put the icing on it in the last call. We're coming back with Liquid Lunch right after this. Dow still at 26.5. Crypto, Bitcoin still just above 9,000. You stay right there. Watch those commercials. Back after this.